Minister's job is to find people to interview Paul Dacre for Ofcom job. So I'm assuming you definitely haven't heard about this because it kind of went under the radar. But
Absolutely not.
the head of Ofcom has a vacancy and they haven't filled it. So what's happened is they're trying to fill it with a person that will give the government a favourable look in the media.
So for the viewers, what is Ofcom?
So Ofcom is our media regulator. So say when people complain about a TV show, they complain to Ofcom and then they will deal with it and deem whether the complaint is, real or if it's frivolous, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So Ofcom have had this vacancy and they're trying to fill it with somebody who's going to give them a favourable outlook. Now, a bit of backstory about this guy, Paul, is it Dacre? Yeah, Paul Dacre. Mm-hmm. He used to work for the Daily Mail. He doesn't like the BBC. And that's
surprise.
That's the two biggest issues that people were taken with. Added to the fact as well, he interviewed for this in the past and the government has to send him. Yeah, so he interviewed for this role in the past. The government sends you through a process where you have to interview and be chosen by a selected committee, and then the committee will say it's okay to hire you. He got to the last stage, and the 4 people the government chose all said he's not suitable as a candidate for the job. So what the government have tried doing now is they've tried handpicking a new committee that will be favourable to pick him and get him in that job.
Let's just be clear. So why is the government hell-bent on getting this guy into the role if they didn't want him the first time?
They're worried. They're worried about the slant the media is putting on them, putting them in like a negative light. With him, you're going to have basically dominance of the BBC because Ofcom choose how much funding the BBC gets. So if the BBC starts saying things...
The BBC is essentially government funded, isn't it? No?
Yeah, it is. Public and funded. Therefore, if the BBC is saying stuff that goes a little bit against the government, they can go to Ofcom and say, cut their funding. And then they're going to start saying things that will favour them in order to get them on side, to get their funding, to keep them going.
But what you're saying is they want to put their man, their parrot, right? Their
exactly that.
Puppet in the position.
But it's
pull
weird.
The strings then.
They can't get anyone in to okay it and say, yes, he should be in. A lot of people that they have approached to take up the role have just said no. They said they don't want to tarnish their own public rep by being a part of that committee process.
Yeah, because if this is what's being talked about, then it's going to be very obvious that it's not prestigious to be asked. If you're being asked, that means you can be manipulated as well. So you're making something. You're only being asked so you can put this guy in. So you're essentially complicit in this whole kind of get this guy in type thing. Interesting. So everyone's just like, no.
Yeah, people are like, not me, I don't want to be a part of it. And it just makes me think, why can't the BBC not the BBC, why can't the government just pick someone new who's maybe not as hard-leaning in their favour?
Just as in like the best man or
just the best man for the job, maybe?
Yeah, just, like the usual thing. So somebody who's going to be objective. And what it shows from the other side is it probably shows, the BBC are doing a good job, man. Doing what we call investigative journalism, right?
Yeah.
So are presenting the right stories that are showing things in the right light. That's what we want from journalists, man. We don't want them selling, not like Fox News in America, we don't want them just selling one narrative. We want objective news. And the government feels threatened, that means we're getting close. Not a bad thing.
So another layer to this is that only 9 people applied for that said job because it was so heavily favoured to go to this guy.
Right.
Only 9 people for a public office job. 9 people,
yeah,
man.
Which,
that's so small.
Come on, man. That's nothing, isn't it? Yeah.
Surely there's got to be other people out there that are more suited towards it.
Yeah, and presumably those 9 people are just to make it look like they're interviewing other people if they've already decided they want this guy to be in.
Yeah.
But
it kind of backs up everyone's thoughts of cronyism in the government. So for those of you that understand cronyism, it's basically where you give favouritism towards your mates to get high profile jobs. I think that's pretty much a nutshell definition of it.
Yeah, there's a very similar word that we use in families, nepotism.
Yeah.
So favouring family members to get them in certain roles. It's just, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And doing things ahead of time, that's... I kind of do that actually in hospitals sometimes. Not with a specific thing in mind, but I know that if I do somebody a good turn, when something presents itself and I actually do need some support, I've put some, let's say, goodness in the bank, and then it will come to fruition. Now, obviously, if it's here, it's quite dark. Different intentions, that's a different thing. But yeah, cronyism. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what it is, and that's been happening throughout COVID with handing out government contracts to friends of people in government, etc. Like, this is just another layer to it. Yeah. And it's funny, only The Guardian picked this up because they're a left-leaning paper. I couldn't find too many articles that were backing up or saying the same thing. Maybe I didn't look hard enough.
I'm impressed that you read The Guardian. I mean, that's a revelation to me.
I don't. It's sent to me by Bao. But obviously, whenever he sends me an article, I try and read from numerous news sources. And there aren't many to back this one up. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's weird. Because I want to hear how they say it. I'll give you a prime example of how it was said later,
right,
and you'll see exactly what I mean. It's a proper head fuck.
When are you applying to the BBC?
I'm never applying to the BBC because when you work for the BBC, you can't have your own public viewpoints. You can't express an opinion.
It's okay, you don't have an opinion anyway.
I do have an opinion. This is what this podcast is, right? But I can't, in the BBC, I only found this out. They essentially introduced a bunch of rules saying you have to be impartial on every issue. So say all the stuff that happened in Israel,
like the Queen,
you can't comment on it.
Yeah, it's the same with the royal family. It's exactly the same. It's a very civil servant.
Yeah, but the royal family working for the BBC are two very different things.
Absolutely. So, all right. So if you were offered a job for the royal family, you take that one?
No, of course not. I hate the royal family. You know this.
Listen. If you could do marketing for them,
I'm not doing marketing for any of them.
Well, that'd be a good job, man. You'd be right inside. Then you could get me in. You get me knighted. We've talked about this before, man.
Get united, bro.
I'm saying cronyism, right? Nepotism. You get your boy in.
That is cronyism supporting colonialism. You see what I did there? I'm not doing that.
Listen. If I become Lord Mavi, I can make some big things happen for you.
I'll call you Lord Farquaad, you little midget, right? I ain't doing nothing beyond that, okay? Allow it. You're not getting any Lord Mavi shit from me. No way.
Listen. Before my time is done, you will know who the Dark Lord is, okay? Don't forget.
But yeah, man, I just found that story really wild. I didn't know it was a thing or that the governments can do this. I think
you know what it is? Corruption, right? This whole thing about corruption. Like there is a perception that, like India, we say, oh, India's corrupt, Modi's corrupt. It's like what we call, or what we perceive to be blatant corruption. We can see it. It's like you're in India and you're bribing the policeman and everyone's watching and he's like, yeah, carry on driving.
Yeah.
Corruption happens in every country and we're supposed to be this like sophisticated country, which we are, but it just means that the corruption is happening behind closed doors at just a really, really super high level and at every level. I think that's the point, right? You watch all these programs, like we watch stuff like... like 24 or The Wire and all Bodyguard and all this stuff, and you just realize this stuff is based on real stuff, man. There are scandals. Hancock, man, bloody Hancock. Shit happens, okay? So like this stuff definitely happens, and if someone can imagine it and script it in a show, there's no smoke without fire. This shit is based on real things and insiders, and there's lots of journalists who will get these stories, but they won't talk about the source. It's off the record, all that kind of stuff. They won't reveal the source, so it's all real.
It's all corruption. It's all just backing each other up. And what's a bit much is that if you're picking... I find it weird how the government can pick a committee of people to okay their person, because that shouldn't fit. Okay. So say if you're picking a committee of people and you're picking 4 people, that means you're kind of rigging the process anyway, because you're picking 4 people that you want to assess those. It should be done by an independent regulator, or it should be done by Ofcom because it's their job. I get that Ofcom is a public sector role, but I don't understand why the government would pick and choose a committee, because that means you're just rigging the system.
You're going to make it favourable to your outcome. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. So you're saying there should be an independent regulatory body?
It should be independent. I think the one thing I've learned about just the last year or so of stuff, just with politics, etc., there needs to be more independent reviews and independent insights to stuff, because a lot of it just gets spun in a way that favours a certain party or a certain group.
Agenda.
Yeah, or an agenda. It's really hard to be impartial in this world. I get that, but yeah, it's jarring. It doesn't make sense. Why would you be able to pick a government? Well, why would you be able to pick a committee of people and put them forward for a role that isn't affecting the government? It's affecting Ofcom. Surely Ofcom should do it. That's just my view anyway.
That sounds logical, doesn't it? But
I'm sorry, I live on logic.
But in a world where people are just so busy, like we're talking about this on the podcast, but outside the podcast, like you're busy with your life, I'm busy with my life. Do we care enough to make enough noise to really, like, we can debate it, it's good, it's healthy, we should raise awareness.
There's going to be something else though, isn't it? There's going to be another thing that takes you off it and then you think about something else.
And that's why corruption persists, because it's like, can I make a difference? Is it really my problem? Do I want to become seen as a threat or a problem and then get silenced in whatever way, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're absolutely right, though.